LBC 97.3. Call 0845 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC 973. This is London's biggest conversation with Ian Dale.
27 minutes to 8 here on LBC 97.3. We're talking about trust. And I guess you trust me to be here to present this programme tonight, and not at the LBC Christmas party, which is going on as we speak. So Rebecca, Laura and I, we are here to do our job, which you trust us to do. And I wonder what you think if we just decided to go and have a quick bevy down the pub. You wouldn't really trust us anymore, would you? And probably not tune in again. Well, that's the way people feel about our great institutions of state. They just don't trust them to do the job that they think they would do. Why is that, and what can be done about it? 0845 6060 973. Graham in Sevenoaks has been extremely patient, and you're on the air now, Graham. Hi.
Hello, Ian. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad that you are back and well. It's the cynic from Sevenoaks here, as you probably remember.
Everyone in Sevenoaks is a cynic, because that's where James Whale lives.
It's quite possible. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes very quickly before I carry on, and I will tell you who made them a little bit later. The first one is, if you tell a big enough lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed.
Dr. Joseph Goebbels.
Nope. What's luck for rulers that men do not think? And I will tell you a little bit later. Now, the problem that you're talking about, the problems, it's one of the problems of an increasing population, because people become numbers rather than individuals. And you are right, organisations have become far too big and impersonal. Everything from the companies that sell us our food and goods, to the government, to the civil servants, etc. Most of it's about money and perhaps power. The other problem is accountability. There is very little accountability. If somebody does something wrong, it's very difficult. You have to go to law or whatever to try and get some kind of rectification, because nobody wants to actually say, I'm sorry, I did wrong, I will fix it. Because, well, nobody wants to admit their wrongdoing. I think it's called narcissism.
Well, hang on, I'm just going to take you up on that, because I think that you're partly right there, but I think that many institutions in society now are far more accountable than they've ever been, partly because of the internet. The internet has democratised the world in many good ways, I think. So I'm not sure it's all about a lack of accountability. I think big institutions, big companies, are in some ways more accountable now than they were 20 years ago.
I would like to agree with that, but I can cite an example. I won't make any names. I made a number of complaints to a large retailer, and eventually they stonewalled me because they don't want to deal with the problems that I'm experiencing. And so that was done through the internet. You can go as much as you want on the internet. It's about also the media, who have sensationalised rather than reported. So we've got some very good reporting, like the MP scandals, etc., which is fantastic, and that's why we need a free press. However, what they've been doing is concentrating on sensationalising rather than looking at things that are going on in your and my backyard and reporting that. I think also the public are to blame as well, because we are switched off, we are lazy, poorly informed, some of them poorly educated. People don't want to complain because, oh, I've got too much going on, I can't be bothered, oh, I've got to do this. But also, again, it's the accountability. Have you tried making a complaint about, for argument's sake, a government department? Have you tried making a complaint against a politician? I have. They don't listen because they know they're not properly accountable as they should be. And you're saying also about people being trusting, being happier. I could go along with that. However, it's also a known fact that the pessimists in society, people like me maybe, who see the glass as half empty, not half full, are usually correct. Because you can be very happy to live a life not seeing reality. Reality isn't always very nice. And if you want to know who made the quotes, and I have to say it's a dreadful book, but it really, really is interesting. It was Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf.
No, I wasn't far off, was I?
No, if you have a chance to read it, it's actually very interesting, because he was a dreadful cynic, but my goodness me, he knew and understood about the public, and he also knew about politicians. The things he said about politicians were spot on, and they still are. We have to get this trust back.
And the second quote?
The second one was also Adolf Hitler from Mein Kampf.
Well, that's the first and last time we'll have Adolf Hitler quotes on this programme. Graham, thank you very much indeed. Let's go to Nick in Enfield. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hi. Not too bad, thank you. What would you like to say?
All I want to say is, Ian, who can we trust? I mean, it's the end of the world supposedly on Friday. Maybe that's a good thing, you know. But the thing is, the police, the politicians, I just don't know where to go with all this. It's just getting worse day by day. What else is there to come out now before Christmas? It's just absolutely incredible what's going on. And accountability, I think, Ian, Patton should have gone a long time ago. He's got 6 or 7 other jobs. How can he be accountable for an organisation when he's here, there and everywhere? We need somebody in to make positive decisions and get this house in order. And that's what I've got to say. It's just absolutely crazy. It's an old boys network, and it's always going to stay like that. There needs to be change.
Well, I do tend to agree with you that if you look at non-executive directors of big companies, if you look at people on the boards of things like the NHS and various other things, they do tend to be all of a type, and it's very difficult to break into that. And they've all been educated in the same kind of places, that they all mix at the same kind of parties. And I would have liked to have thought we would have got rid of that sort of old boys network in this country, and I think it has gradually been eroded, but it's still there. And I agree. I agree with you. Watching Chris Patton today on the television, you just thought that man is completely, utterly out of touch. Has no respect either for what ordinary people think. Some of the things he was saying today were just so elitist. I thought, well, I don't know how you get away with it, frankly.
You know, Ian, I travel around the world a lot, and when I talk to people around the world, it's this class thing they've got in their heads, that the working class, the middle class, the upper class, you know. And yes, these old institutionalised guys, they do get away with a lot. Things are changing. It's going to take a long time to change. But you know what? What's the answer? I just give up anymore. It's rife with corruption. There's lots of things going on. And, you know, I think this policing is just it's the tip of the iceberg what's going on, you know. And it puts everybody in a dim light, I think.
Okay, Nick, thank you.
Laughing stock of the world, I think.
Thank you very much indeed. Gary's in Ipswich. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Ian.
Hi.
The House of Lords, unelected. They've just had 2 lords that have been to prison, now back into the House of Lords claiming expenses and fees for turning up. They've got another one in there that overclaimed by about 126,000. I'm not sure if she's paid it back yet. Now, if I was a lord and I was in the House of Lords, I would not want to sit next to those people or near them. I would actually walk out. I would make a statement and say that I do not want these people in the House of Lords.
Well, I think some of them are shunned. Some of them are shunned, basically.
Yeah, but do we hear anything from the others that are standing up for this? Because if they did, we could then start to see some turnaround of what's happening at the moment.
Well, it's difficult, this, because politicians who have been up to no good, there are quite a few of them now that have been punished. Some have been sent to prison, some haven't, but there are bad apples in all aspects of our society, and if you have 650 MPs, there are always going to be a few who are up to no good, just as if there are 800 lords, there will be some that are up to no good. I don't know what area of business you're in, Gary, but there will be some people in your line of business that are up to no good. Politicians are no different from anyone else. They have the same temptations.
But Ian, but they set themselves up as the moral opinion of the country. These people are making laws on our behalf. They're supposed to be setting examples to everybody, for the rest of us to follow. So do you not wonder why there is a breakdown in the system when people at the top are being found out? Other people think, well, they're doing it. Why not us? Why are we just sitting here?
Well, it certainly doesn't send a very good example. I'll certainly grant you that. But, it's very difficult to say, well, just because one corrupt vicar, you could say, well, excuse me, one corrupt vicar, you can't say that because there's one corrupt vicar, all the others are going to be corrupt, just as you can't say that because one politician is.
But they could stand up and be countered. The other lords in particular could say, hang on, this is wrong. These people are convicted criminals. They should not be in here.
Well,
because
many of them have.
If you and I in our walk of life committed a crime, we probably would lose our job, our business, and we'd probably be back to square one. These people have just picked up where they've left off and carry on as if nothing's happened.
Well, I suspect there are other people who go to prison and then go back to their jobs after they come out. I don't think that's particularly unusual. I don't think it's necessarily the right thing that they should be allowed to do that, and the system allows them to at the moment. There are many members of the House of Lords who would like to change the system, and I suspect it will be changed one day. So if you serve a prison sentence, you can't then go back to the House of Lords. But then again, you can put the other point of view and say, well, do we not believe in the rehabilitation of prisoners?
Well, since the last election, we've had policy things that were put into to get the election through, and they haven't upheld those. The EU referendum is the main one. They seem to ignore the wishes of the people time and time again, and because of this, is it any wonder we don't have any faith in our institutions anymore?
Well, you see, that has gone on since time immemorial. It's not just over the past few years that politicians haven't necessarily kept to election promises. That has happened since the day that parliaments were invented.
I know, but it's more and more important that we have the things that we want now, because 100 years ago, we probably would have been happy with a decent politician and MP representing our constituency, thinking that he was actually doing it. We didn't have the information then that he probably was on the take then as well. So 100 years later, we've now got to the stage where freedom of information is it going to be the downfall of the country?
Well, you see, I would argue that freedom of information and more transparency and more accountability has actually led to a fall in trust, in not just in politics, but in all sorts of institutions. Now, that isn't necessarily a reason for saying we shouldn't have freedom of information, but to pretend that it's all had a positive effect, I think would be to deny a very apparent truth. Gary, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your call. We'll be going to Dave in Coulsdon in a couple of minutes' time. It's 7:45.